Well, welcome to episode 215 of the BrewGooders. I'm going to change it because it's his 16 on the thing. That's how far in advance I've planned episodes. I'm Jeff. Joining me this week, joining me most weeks, is in the middle is Mr. Andrew McGee, and on the far right, but not a member of the far right, as far as we're aware, is Mr. John Bruce.
Hello.
How are you guys doing? All right?
Very good. Yep. Very much enjoying the decent weather recently.
Oh,
it's nice to get out in the garden, isn't it? It's magnificent.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, you've been stuck inside a warehouse. Yeah, it's been good. Yeah.
How does the warehouse get in the heat?
Roasting. Absolutely roasting.
Imagine
especially when you get
in shed. I think that's a massive.
Especially closer to the roof. When you get closer to the roof, it is roasting. With the lights and the skylight, yeah, it gets a bit toasty.
What do you mean closer to the roof? Is it all on one level? Is there multiple levels?
No, we have. I work in the tower. It's called. There's a tower inside Amazon, which is 4 levels.
Right.
And so I
can only look at it from the outside, and just from the outside, it just looks, because it's the size of 10 football pitches. You just assume it's just a big flat, with high shelves.
No, what like a really old-fashioned library, and we all go around on big ladders to get stuff down.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Ladders for wheels.
Can you imagine? No, there's 4 floors in the tower where I work. The rest of the building is kind of flat, and then you've got, as you see in most programs, they've got the pallets stacked up on the big high rack, and you've got to get them down with the forklift.
I thought the tower would be like that, the area in the middle where Jeff Bezos stands and just watches them.
That's I had
a rotating platform like this.
The prison and Guardians of the Galaxy.
So you can see the whole thing.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I was thinking one of those you were before we went to air. You were immediately my brain went to the prison and Guardians of the Galaxy, but also is it Arena and all these kind of 80s, late 80s, early 90s sci-fi action movies where there was just there's just a pillar in the middle of an open area, and there was that's where the people that ran the asylum basically stayed. And
it's a space race. Just imagine them, they're up there on the tower in Amazon.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I will not condone that. Sorry.
Sorry, you can't say anything wrong about Amazon. Me and Jeff are still feuding. Me and Jeff Bezos. So,
all right. I thought you meant me.
I put some this week on eBay. Speaking of arenas, before I get sidetracked, because I remembered this, after our conversation last night, I went away and watched Dungeons and Dragons.
The new one.
Thoroughly entertaining movie. I thought it was excellent. But those kids for the D&D show, they didn't necessarily die. They were shown in a cage, but you didn't actually see them die.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
So, they could still be out there. I seen the reference, and there was loads of good moments in it. So it was a fun movie.
That's good fun, yeah.
I
Hugh Grant seems to be settling into all these kind of fun, kind of older comedy roles now.
He can't be the handsome leading man anymore, can he? He's not that guy. He's a bit gnarly and craggy looking.
A very fun protagonist, I thought. I quite like antagonist, sorry. But I just like the film, and the more you kind of look into it, the more you realize how much a D&D campaign it is. When you consider things like the guy from Bridgerton, whose name always escapes me, is very much a stoic headpiece.
Reggie Jean, the fucking impossibly handsome, the handsomest man in Britain, just showing up to be a paladin for a while. I wanted to go back and play Baldur's Gate or something like that as a paladin. After watching that, I was so enthused.
He even has the scene where he explains how the bridge works and that you have to go in the different you can't walk straight across, and he says it very even just his tone, he shifts into you can just imagine the DM playing him as an NPC and then just starting to read the rules that he had pre-prepared for that puzzle, and then obviously the players.
Somebody will go. One of the players will go. I step onto the bridge. All right, well, the bridge collapses then. It absolutely was like when fantasy books first came out, there was the guy who created D&D originally was a guy called F. Gary Gygax. He was the first one, and he also wrote some fantasy books, and they're widely ridiculed for being basically just he would play D&D and then write down what had happened in his thing. He had these garderobe things, and they were really, really badly written. And for a while, that's what fantasy was. It was people writing down their D&D things. And that's always been the problem with D&D movies. I have the point I'm going to get to, honestly. D&D, Dungeons and Dragons movies to this has always been that, it's just like a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, and it's just, they're trying to be too serious with it, and it's just writing down the dungeons. And that's exactly what they did, but they didn't try and be serious. They embraced how ridiculous it was in that movie, and I think that's why it worked. Having a bard for a start, who would choose to be a bard? So having a bard as your hero was pretty good.
I think, like I remember when we first saw the trailer for it. I think the trailer came out the weekend before me and Tom went on that rail tour round Fife that we just about managed to beat John and Kirkcaldy for. But when John had to hang out with 3 drunks for an hour. They brought out the trailer for that, and then they kind of let slip that Chris Pine, who Captain Kirk and all these action movies and stuff that he's done, and they've got him playing a bard, and you're like, it would have been boring if he was like the human fighter, but the fact that he wasn't,
it would having. I'm dreadful with names, but having the female barbarian from it, and then
Michelle Rodriguez, is that not her name?
Michelle Rodriguez,
That's barbarian,
was inspired casting. She was brilliant. As I say, Reggie Jean. I think they were talking about him for Bond at one point. I think he'd be brilliant. Great casting. The trailer had an owl bear and a mimic. It's just like I say, if you've ever played D&D, it's like mimics are amazing. Owl bears are amazing. Had everything you wanted, and it was a laugh. It was alright. So it feels like we just picked up a conversation for last week when we were talking about this, and we were just like,
we have to talk about it every week.
Yeah,
I think it's so funny
about the D&D movie and new things that we picked up from the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Yeah, so it was good fun. What are folk drinking this evening before we move on to chatting about shit?
I'm drinking censored pale ale. It looks like it's in Japanese or some kind of the Chinese, Malaysian, Indonesian. I don't know. It's a pale ale, 5.1%. So, what are you laughing at? I don't know what it says. It's a foreign language.
Going to marginalise the whole of Southeast Asia, and it's one of them.
Listen, those things. I don't think it's Indonesia or Malaysia. I'm not sure where those pictures come from. It looks like Japanese to me, but then again, that could be completely racist. People will be on here. Japanese people will be on like, does he not know the difference between Japanese writing and the writing from Northeast Korea? Yeah, Saudi Arabia has come in and said possibly Korean. I don't know. It's.
Thanks, Anna. Okay, how's the beer?
The beer's nice. The beer's.
It's Hangul is the language.
Honestly, Anna, now you're just making up words. I'm not sure that's a real thing. I don't know. Is that a language? I don't know. Is that true, or are you just guessing? I don't know.
So is the beer okay?
The beer's lovely. It's a pale ale. Lovely.
Yep.
Well, I have
what have you got?
Raspberry Ripple Iron Brew Extra.
Yeah, it's a good one. I like that one over the slushy one they do. They've got, is it like one that's
the
like
berry one? Yeah.
I do prefer that one.
As I say, I've just gone and checked, and Hangul is the Korean alphabet.
Okay.
And it looks like this could possibly be it. So I might be able, if you give me enough time, I might be able to.
Can you let us go on the phone and like Google Translate?
Crack the code.
I am drinking La Bella Lola, which I believe is Korean. So or Japanese, or something from that area. It's a Mediterranean blonde ale from what's the brewery? From the Barcelona Beer Company. But I got it in a beer box. Brewed wheat and malts from Bavaria and Bohemia region, citrus hops from the United States and Germany, and incredibly pure water from Montsinny Natural Reserve. It's all right.
Nice.
As I say, it came in a beer box.
Nice. It looks very pale.
That
Hey,
looks
look
like
at
my
that.
tea
It's,
after a shift at Amazon.
Yeah, so it's blonde. It's a blonde ale, and it's nice, quite light. I can't find the ABV, but it doesn't taste like it'd be much more than a couple of percent. 4%, so it's fine. Nice sessional beer. Yeah, that's bro. I've had loads of beer this week. I went to the commercial last Friday, and they had some really nice stuff on. I'm trying to remember what I had. You were there on Sunday. They had. And then I was in Helene last night.
Me and G went for our dinner or lunch on Sunday.
And then I was in Helend Tavern last night for one, and had Happy Chappy from Cromarty Brewing.
Oh, the Helens.
That was quite nice. Yeah, it's nice. It's nice to be pub. I was really busy last night. The weather was really lovely in Fife last night. So like I was there a couple of weeks ago, and it was dead. It was like a Monday night, and there was like a couple of us in there. I went there last night, and there might have been about 20, 30 folk in there. And there wasn't even like football really on. It was like the PSG match highlights were on and stuff. But that was cool. Nice. And yeah. How are folks reading in that going this week? It's been a total weird assorted geekery week. But have you guys managed to read comics or that this week?
Here we go. Sabrina, the Teenage Witch. The complete collection. Look at that. 500 pages of lovely black and white digests with toilet paper as a bookmark, because that's where I read it, in the toilet.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I quite like much like Andrew. I grew up in a time where most comics across here were black and white reprints, so I very much like a black and white digest, kind of like pocketbook size. I quite like so I very much like a black and white digest.
Who's repeating themselves?
Somebody's behind. What's going on?
Sorry, that was me. I was trying to.
I heard myself. I heard myself. I was, oh no.
Yeah, no.
It's outrageous.
I was trying to comment on the BrewGooders chat, and it started playing the video. So
yeah,
so
you can do it in StreamYard, can you?
Yeah.
I can do it in StreamYard.
I don't know. I'd have to. It wants me to log in.
Right.
I was going to apologise for insinuating that handle was a new word. It absolutely is the career of it. I apologise for saying anything else. So Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Yeah, man, good fun.
I know a guy who worked on Sabrina. I know a guy who did the artwork for a recent Sabrina rethink, Mr. Gary Erskine, friend of the podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Yes, that's lovely.
So it was interesting.
When you said digest, what do you mean? Like, is it like a 3-panel newspaper?
It's basically sort of digest format, as in it's quite small. That's what we usually call like a digest of a pocketbook. But yeah, it's basically they come in. It's it's full page, panels and stuff.
Yeah,
it's just shrunken down and they've just reprinted it as black and white as opposed to color. It's 500 pages. It's a bit of fun, something different. Like I say, I quite enjoy the black and white artwork. It's obviously this whole 60s stuff that's in there just now.
It's a spin-off of Archie Comics, wasn't it?
It is, yeah.
That character within Archie Comics originally. It was the funny comic that has become more serious over the years.
Yeah, there's the whole big spin-offs. There's Josie and the Pussycats, there's the Archie, there's Jughead, all this kind of... And now obviously there's Riverdale and Sabrina for the audiences on Netflix just now. So it's good fun.
They were cancelled though, aren't they? They're both done?
Sabrina got cancelled and Riverdale came to its end, yeah.
Came to a natural end.
I think folks will love it. Melissa Joan Hart will always be Sabrina the Teenage Witch to me.
Yeah.
She'll be in Edinburgh in October. Guess who else will be in Edinburgh in October? This guy. I'm like, hello there.
I quite liked watching it on. It was on Nickelodeon. It was like a sort of like staple of coming home from school on like a weekday to watch it, and Sabrina was always on it like with tea time and that. And yeah, it was always good fun. I remember they did a plot for like a whole season where she had to try and work out the family secret, and it was done in like a puzzle, like a single side A4 bit of paper with like picture puzzles, and it took her like an entire academic year to try and work out the puzzle, and it was very clearly every member of the Spellmans is a twin, and you could like I worked it out episode 1 of that season. It was like, really, come on now.
Spoilers! Oh, come on now.
Oh, sorry. Spoilers for a TV show that a TV episode that came out 28 years ago, or whatever it was.
Exactly. Yeah.
I thought it was one of those like the story was the same every week, like Happy Days sort of thing. You could just watch episodes at random.
I think you could, but they did. There was definitely like
by the bell sort of thing.
There was definitely ongoing episodes. There was also random episodes. Like there was the episode where she I remember there being like it's probably when I started to tune off, to be honest. Maybe started high school or whatever. There was an episode where like she bought a fake ID so she could sneak into an NSYNC concert, and then after that she became like everything she did was fake. All her magic had like, so like she would do a magic spell so she could fly, but actually she was on a wire, and it like it just shit like that, and like the spells all had an element of fake to them, and like why would anybody in the magic industry sell fake IDs if that's what happens? I remember being quite annoyed about that, being like. This magical realm that runs alongside us in this kids program doesn't stand up to scrutiny. Like
the story on Disney Kids doesn't make sense. Like on Nickelodeon, whatever it was. Yeah, it's like a generational thing as well. I think we didn't have Nickelodeon when I was a kid. There was cartoons on BBC on a Saturday morning, but we didn't have a Nickelodeon. Yeah.
There was Wide Awake Club, Glenn Michael's Cartoon Cavalcade. Rolf Harris, all that kind of jazz. Yeah, those various clubs.
Sabrina had its finger on the pulse of pop culture. It had great guests like Penn and Teller,
Britney Spears.
One of those things that because you would have every like I'm assuming pop stars or comedians or things like that.
The principal and her principal ended up becoming like quite a decent director. I'm going to Google it. The principal from
It's Paul Feig. It's Paul Feig from Bridesmaids and Ghostbusters and all that.
Kevin Feig's brother runs the Death Star. Paul Feig.
Yeah. Well, you're thinking of Kevin Feige. This is
Feige. Is a different name, was it? Okay.
Yeah, entirely.
I said there, I wonder if that's his brother, and I couldn't help it. I followed it up with runs the Death Star. If you didn't get that reference, look up.
Yeah, the director. So Mr. Kraft was he was like her. He wasn't even a principal, was he? He was like a geography teacher.
No, he was a teacher. Yeah.
But then,
what did he direct or produce? What did he make afterwards?
He directed Bridesmaids. He directed The Heat, Spy, Ghostbusters, the all-female. The all-female casted one,
which by the way I thought was pretty decent. I'll know, like I kind of got panned, but I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah,
I didn't mind it.
Well.
I feel like there was a lack of weight to the ghosts, is what annoyed me. It was probably more than anything. Like they went very heavily into the CGI, which is fine. But Ghostbusters is quite good at doing the it's always been quite good at the practical stuff. So I remember that annoyed me quite a lot.
Okay,
I think. Yeah. Sabrina the Teenager.
What's John Hart? Was that what you said with Sabrina? She's coming to Edinburgh, is she?
Yes, along with her two aunts from the TV show. They're coming along to do Comic-Con Scotland.
Yeah,
they're three of the guests. Yeah, so.
I thought it was very strange when they made the new one. They made one of the aunts looked almost exactly the same as the actress who played her in the previous one. The kind of stern aunt.
Never watched it.
She looked very similar. The other
Zelda and Hilda, I think was the name of her aunts. Just to make it easy to identify the two of them.
One of them was from The Office, the British version. The lady who was also in Wonder Woman.
Right, yeah.
She was one of the aunts, but the other one was she looked very similar to the person from the 80s version. But again, I didn't see very much. It's like Saved by the Bell or things like that. They passed me by.
I really like if I'm wanting a giggle, there's a YouTube channel I watch called Zach Morris's Trash, and it's just
I've heard of it,
the guy that goes over he goes over old episodes of Saved by the Bell in 5 minutes and just basically like destroys Zach Morris as as a human being. Just It's good. Like, and it's like all the episodes are things like that time Zach was racist, or that time Zach destroyed, and you watch it, and it's like
one where Zach's racist. It's like the Friends something.
Exactly.
The one where Zach punches a homeless man. Something like that.
Yeah, there's one like that time Zach wouldn't date a girl because she was in a wheelchair and stuff like that, and it's just like, it's mental. But there's just episode after episode, like, because I think that was the whole framing of Saved by the Bell, was he just wasn't a very nice guy, and had to learn a life lesson about not being a bad person every episode. But you're like, there's no character depth to talk to this guy. He's just like
douchebag.
Okay, when you make a series that has like it doesn't have arches. I think we 80s 90s was when sort of story arcs came into a lot of these shows. Before that, TV was designed to be designed to get syndicated. So it had no one episode was able to refer to other episodes so that they could be watched on their own. So all cop shows were like that, all comedy shows were like that, things like this.
There was no progression.
It was sort of the late 80s, early 90s, things like X-Files and stuff like that, who introduced story arcs, even Star Trek and things like that. The first couple of seasons of that, very episodic. And as we all know, story arcs make things much better. You can tell so much story. I'm watching an amazing show on Apple at the moment, which I can't. It was big 2 years ago, and I can't believe it's under my radar. But we'll talk about that later when we talk about football. But yeah, storytelling.
Comic wise, I bought this when we were in Glasgow last month, and I sort of The Hero Dies Alone when we were at the game Geekery. I bought this off a guy. I actually bought this off Chris Phillips himself. I chatted to him for a wee while, and I thought it was pretty cool at the time. I was like, I quite like this, so I started reading it, and it's a nice wee mix of like loads of genres. There's a bit of Western in there. There's a bit of like sort of these Ronin-esque traveling samurai that goes around like solving problems in different villages and stuff like that. But yeah, it just revolves around a fox /swordsman called Vermin, and a gunslinger kind of cowboy guy called Rand, who are trying to support a girl called Harmonica through like this like dangerous world where she's been hunted because she's a witch or a mage in a world where they got rid of magic, so she's a target and they're just trying to get her into a safe space. And I just enjoyed it. It was good. I really recommend it. Like, cool plots. It's called The Hero Dies Alone. It's from Demon Logic Productions, stalwarts of the Scottish comic scene. So if you're at a Comic-Con and anywhere, I met Chris at GCAF, and then they were selling The Hero Dies Alone at that toy fair that me and Colin went to in the Willy Wonka room, and I got to chat to him there as well. So it's cool. It's a really cool series. I've only read the first issue, but yeah, I've got issues. What he releases them is like 7-issue trade paperbacks. So I'm looking forward to finishing the podcast so I can finish that. Cool. Full color, hand drawn. It's nice, good. I love it when that's what I really like about sort of particularly comic-based Comic-Cons, where you can chat to the creator and then you just find something that you're like, this is good. I reread over the weekend. I reread Sleeping Dogs from Fraser Campbell as well. It's a really, really good story that I want to do. I've reviewed it in the past. I think I reviewed it in like podcast 7 or something, but I'd like to go back and like talk about it again, because there's all these, we've been doing this podcast for so long that there's stuff. We're now reaching that sort of longevity of the show where I can revisit comics I bought years ago and get a completely different experience now. It's brilliant.
Last week when I was talking about Transformers, I'm sure that's the second time I've thinking it there. I quite often we'll pull something off. I did get something to read this week. and then found out it was book 2 of a 2-book series because I'm not very good at paying attention when I look at things. I thought I can't come on here and talk about the second part of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I'm surprised at the story. It's actually quite satisfying though, because the story starts halfway through the story, but because I've seen the movie and the original foreign language one as well, kind of knew what was happening.
Yeah, you can. It's like fast forwarding it to the bit of the film you want to watch. Isn't it like?
Yeah. I didn't have to watch the first hour or something like that.
Nice.
So, yeah,
That's cool.
Apart from that, I've been reading comics. I've been reading books because I'm a book boy. Django Wexler. I'm 2 books into a 5-book series by him, and I'm waiting for books 3 and 4 to arrive, and book 5 arrived today, predictably. And I made the mistake of reading the back. Blood, a massive spoiler for books 3 and 4, which I'm still waiting for. But it's excellent. It's a genre of fantasy that they call, what do they call it? They call it gunpowder fantasy sort of thing. It's set in a fantasy world, but it's kind of like sharp. It's set where instead of just sword and sorcery, they've also got muskets and things like that.
So it's not quite medieval fantasy, but it's not quite steampunky enlightenment-y fantasy yet.
No, steampunk. It's more like if you imagine a fantasy novel taking place during the Napoleonic Wars.
Sure, yeah.
And you're fighting demons as well. There's magic and sort of demons involved as well. Very, very good. 2 books in. And I'm having to wait for them, the next 3, the other 2, to arrive from eBay. I could have got them on Kindle, but as I previously stated, I'm feuding with Jeff Bezos and he's not getting any more money from me. So I have to actually wait for the physical versions to arrive.
Sure it is.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Awesome. What have you guys been watching this week? Have you been catching anything?
I found a show. It's a couple of years old now, 2022, on Apple, because they've got a new show out with Joel Edgerton about parallel worlds and stuff like that. But I went on to have a look at it, and it was there's only the first 2 or 3 episodes, so I was going to wait for the whole thing. And then I stumbled upon the show called Shining Girls, which is it's like a serial killer-y, but the main sort of character, she keeps on sort of like she's jumping between parallel worlds. So she'll be sitting petting her dog, and then she'll move into another room, and then it follows her into another room, and the dog suddenly become a cat, and she puts down a coffee cup, and suddenly it's a teacup and things like this. And I'm only a couple of episodes in, so you didn't care quite what's happening, but it's absolutely excellent. It's got Elizabeth Moss, who's good in just about everything she's ever done. I think, from The West Wing through The Handmaid's Tale, things like that. It's got Philippa Sue in it, who, if anyone's a musical theatre guy, will know she was in the original cast version of Hamilton, so she's very good. Jamie Bell, who I think is very underrated as an actor. I think, most people will go with he was the Bally Kid years ago.
And then he was Ben Grimm in the failed Fantastic Four. Right?
Yeah, Ben Grimm in the Fantastic Four. He was in the Elton John biopic as Bernie Taupin. But he's surprisingly very, very good as well. So yeah, it's excellent. If you've got Apple TV, Shining Girls.
Shining Girls.
I don't want to give too much away. It's one of those shows that if you give too much away, but very, very good.
Yeah, no, it sounds. I quite like that kind of thing as well. I like the I like the kind of slow. Sometimes you want that kind of slow burny, like not really knowing where things are going. Like if it's done well, it can be enthralling,
Aye, and it feels like a sort of like an almost Scandi noir serial killer one. But crossed with one of my favourite episodes every Star Trek is there's like a season 7 episode called Parallels, where Worf just keeps on jumping. Every time he turns around, he's in a different parallel universe, and it's a fantastic episode, and it feels like that's what's happening to this girl. She keeps on jumping about a wee bit, and her wee things, her desk moves, her coffee cup changes, and things like this. But you just wonder what's going on.
Yeah.
And Jamie Bell, like I say, Jamie Bell's the really creepy, sinister, possibly the serial killer. It's not a jet.
Didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, Shining Girls.
This is good.
Cool. I
have you got
watched Bodkin on Netflix.
That's
It
on the
dropped
list.
last week. Yes,
The
I was
podcast-
hoping for. Yeah, I was hoping for something along the lines of Deadlock, because that was my big surprise hit of last year. And they were like, "Oh, it's a comedy thriller." It's more thriller than comedy, to be honest. This one,
Right.
but it's really good. Don't want to give too much away, but obviously the premise is about a true crime podcast, and it's set in Ireland, and it's just very good. It's a good mystery. It's engaging. There's some quirky characters in there to make you wonder what's happening. You know, it's a small kind of Irish village. You know, there's the odd quirky character now and again. You know, it's highly recommended. I breezed through all 7 episodes, watched it over 2 days. Boom, done. It was really good. So,
I looked at it and I thought it's like a cross between like an Irish comedy sort of thing, and there was a show I watched last year with Selena Gomez and Steve.
Only Murders in the Building, yeah.
Yeah, Only Murders in the Building. I watched season 1 of that. I've not watched season 2 yet. But that was a podcasty thing.
Yeah.
And Martin Short, who's absolutely brilliant again.
Well, it's up to they're filming season 4 now of that
Are they?
program. So yeah,
I haven't
so
watched season 2 yet.
there's 3 seasons on Disney Plus of that, and it's really good.
But yeah, so I wondered if this podcast would be like that. Like,
Yeah.
you know, doing a true crime podcast. Sort of.
Yeah, but no, it's highly recommended. Bodkin. I watched Fallout as well, and that was amazing.
Yeah, I watched Fallout. Yeah,
Fallout, it was really good. Yeah. And I finished X-Men '97 yesterday.
Oh,
The final
cool.
episode dropped.
So can we backpedal a wee bit and talk about Fallout and then X-Men '97? And
Yeah, sure, man. Yeah.
because I did both of them as well. What did you think of it? Have you seen the whole Fallout yet?
Nope, no spoilers.
Oh, no.
No,
So no Fallout.
spoilers, no.
I don't know what's a spoiler in that. Like obviously, I wouldn't say what happens, but I'm really really good. I've never played a Fallout computer game, and I want to, but I've been told like I knew what was happening the whole time, and all that sort of stuff. A couple of things where I was like, I think it was maybe the last shot that I was like, you know, when the music's really dramatic and something happens, and I'm like, I don't understand the significance of that. But then I was able to go and see like Sean, my 17-year-old who is obsessed with the Fallout games, and he was able to fill me in seconds. He's like, "Oh, it's this." And I was like, "Oh, cool."
Yeah.
So they are tying it up with the computer game somewhat. He's like,
They've said it's canon, but I think it's important when you make a show like that it can't be just for fans of the game.
Yeah.
Yes, well, I've never played a single game.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about Fallout, other than the wee Fallout guy, because I got invited to do a trading card set for that years ago and I turned it down. And it was just a little Fallout guy, and that's all I knew about it. But yeah, I watched it purely on the strength of the cast. I thought that's a good cast. I'm going to watch that. Walton Goggins, amazing.
Walton Goggins
Amazing
is
Again, one of those guys who's just good in everything he does. You know,
I'm used to being funnier, and don't get me wrong, he has moments of like hilarity in Fallout, but he's a much darker character than everything else I've seen him in. Obviously, Ant-Man 2, he's tremendous. He's probably like Ant-Man 2's got a stellar cast, and I think Walter Goggins slides under the radar in that movie, but he's actually really funny in that movie as like the total sleazy like gun runner. And then I talk about it quite a lot in the show, but Righteous Gemstones, he plays like one of the like main B characters in that, and he's just fucking hilarious.
Well, many people have seen him first in a show called The Shield many years ago, but he was one of the
The Shield, yeah.
And he was excellent. He had this small recurring role in Sons of Anarchy, where he played a transvestite with that one of the Sons of Anarchy characters was in love with, and he was brilliant in that. But my absolute favourite that he's been in, and it's one of my favourite shows, is Justified. With Timothy Oliphant, where he plays the kind of he was in the pilot, and he was killed in the pilot. But there was so much chemistry between, because it was based on a short story by Elmo Leonard called Fire in the Hole.
Yeah.
He was killed at the end of it, but there was so much chemistry between him and Timothy Oliphant, who plays the main character in this, that they just decided, no, we have to bring this guy back, and you know we'll keep him in for season 1 and see what happens. And he turned out to be You know, if you've seen Justified, he's in every season, almost every episode.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the new season yet that's on Disney Plus. I haven't seen that.
Yeah,
Yet,
the City Attack. Something like I've not seen that one yet either.
But I watched all of Justified, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And don't forget, Andrew is also in one of our favorite TV shows in Community as well. He plays Chevy Chase's lawyer.
Chevy Chase's lawyer when Chevy he makes them do the lie detector test and then they'll go for a pint and things like that. Yeah.
Yep, and I donate to you a vial of my sperm, and it gives them all a vial of his sperm, and he dies due to lack of fluids in his body because he just gave everyone a big flask of sperm.
That's right.
Brilliant.
I'd forgotten about that. That's right. He's
so good.
That's a great episode.
Nice.
Sorry, Jeff.
The whole thing is so he plays one of the main characters in Fallout, and he's just really good. That whole, like you say, that whole cast is really good. I just think taking three sort of interlocking stories almost throughout the show, or 4 if you include 4 or 5 actually. There's like a lot going on, but just really good. Like a compelling mystery. You know, I think that they used the set really well to make like there's a mystery that's happening. Then there's like Walter Goggins' character who starts off as being like quite nasty and unlikable, but then through his sort of natural charm and then like sort of flashbacks to his like history and stuff, it's just good fun. Like finding out that actually a lot of his behavior is is not justifiable but understandable, and and then we've got the was it Lucy, the female lead, and her going through some like her awakening to what's going on in the world. You know, she going from a sheltered, protected life to just how fucking awful reality actually is, and so it's just good, really good. That lovely episode with a cameo from Matt Berry, which I really enjoyed. I wasn't expecting it, and it happened. And I was like, "Oh, brilliant!"
I love Matt Berry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. It made me want to go and watch Westworld now, which I completely bypassed, which was Jonathan Nolan producing as well. So I think Westworld will be next on my list. But after watching Fallout, after watching a quality made show like Fallout, it made me want to go and watch something quality, if you know what I mean, something like well made. So I started Succession, which is pretty good so far. So, but Fallout was I know nothing about the games. Amazing.
Westworld is.
It's funny that you say that.
It's just the story's told over things. They should have got one more season for them to wrap it up. It's an unfortunate thing, but Westworld for 2 or 3 years was one of my favourite shows on TV.
Yeah, it's on the list definitely now. Westworld, yeah. So, that will be watched.
Talk about like favourite shows in years. I think X-Men '97 might be one of my favourite shows of all time. Obviously, it's very high praise. I think definitely one of my favorite animated series of all time. I think if they can continue the quality into another season or 2, it'll be unparalleled. Like it's, I know John was saying as well. Like the last episode dropped last night. Is it Tolerance's Extinction Part 3? It was called. Just that even that is such a. You're talking about the sequel of a kids' cartoon that was made in 1992, and it's got, you know, the name of the episode is called Tolerance's Extinction. They're not pulling punches. They're not they're not toning down what they're trying to do.
Well, definitely, yeah. It's an adult drama disguised as a kids' TV show. That's what it is. Yeah. So it's very well made. Look, I've never watched, because I never really watched the X-Men cartoon. I've watched maybe the first 5 episodes since X-97 dropped. And it is kind of cheesy, and it's not great. But the strength of what they were able to do with X-Men 97, it's made me want to go back and read X-Men again. Because that's when I started properly reading the X-Men comics, was kind of like that mid-early 90s with the X-Men Blue and X-Men Gold teams. That's when I just came into properly collecting the X-Men. So I kind of dipped in and out over the years. But yeah.
Without spoilers, there was that nod in the last episode to that era, and like you say, it's an adult drama disguised as a kid's cartoon. There's so many nods to and too many things, so many aspects of it that they're leaning back to. They're acknowledging that they're a sequel series, so they, that they're addressing the fact that you're seeing characters and people from this is the same chronology as the 1992 TV series from cartoon, but then they're also much like the 1982 cartoon. They borrowed storylines and characters from the comics, like and concepts, and it's as I say, like we had is it episode 5, the much praised episode 5 was borrowed very heavily from Frank Quitely's run on it, on his E for Extinction series. It's just great. The last 2 episodes in particular, I watched the last 2 this morning, and they were excellent. Like, just unbelievable drama. And like Joe was saying,
well written.
Like everybody gets their moment to shine. They even make some of the shitter X-Men better.
Some of the shitter
there was moments where I was like,
"How are we?"
What I like is that they've finally utilised Cyclops, because Cyclops was shot on in the movies big style. The James Marsden stuff. I watched X-Men 1 and X-Men 2 recently, and Cyclops was shot on. X-Men 3, he disappears entirely. He gets killed early on in the film. And finally, it's like they've utilised Cyclops properly. And the fact they're using his powers, his concussive beam, to move around, that's just, instead of just being a weapon, it's used as a defensive tool as well. So he's able to point it at the ground, and then that pushes him back out of the way of somebody attacking. That's just genius.
Yeah.
Well done. That show.
It has been. The thing is, back in the 90s or something like that, he was very much a multiple sort of character. Through the 80s and 90s, he was, the good guy, the Boy Scout, everything like that. And if you've read the comics, this he's the character in the Marvel Universe, I think, who goes through the greatest change of any character for what he starts as to what he becomes. He's like, it's like Hal Jordan in the DC Universe, who starts as a certain thing and becomes a completely different thing before it was reset. And Scott Summers is like that. He was always my favourite X-Men when I was very young, before it became Colossus. I could always associate with him.
He was so good in '97, and given I always found some of his character quirks were quite nippy when I was younger, but just give up a bit of weight. The stuff with Jean's great in that, Jean and Madeline Pryor, and he's basically trapped in there's always been a love triangle between him, Wolverine, and Jean, which doesn't really get too much attention in X-Men '97, but they introduced Madeline Pryor, so you have Cyclops in a love triangle with his wife and his wife's clone, and it's just oh my god, man, this is mind blowing. And
see, the thing is, in the comics, I don't think there was really that love triangle sort of thing. Wolverine sort of loved Jean Grey, but Jean Grey always loved Cyclops.
Yeah.
So I think it was made to be more in the movies than it ever was in the things. It would have been better.
There's some really interesting quirks as well. The idea that Morph is and there was complaints in the first couple of episodes when they made Morph. They kind of revisited the Morph character, and he's now, when he's in his default, when he's not morphing, basically he's just this pure white, he looks like kind of like a shell almost before he incorporates somebody else's appearance. And they kind of addressed that in that because in the original 90s series he had a kind of weaselly, he was just a guy who could morph. And then they did an episode halfway through this season when they were talking about Mr. Sinister, where it kind of revealed that when that old appearance he had in the original series was like a manipulation of Mr. Sinister, and it was quite so. When they were talking about how shit Mr. Sinister was, he morphed back into that 90s look and was even basically Mr. Sinister will manipulate everybody, and then he turned back into that appearance. He's I would know. And I'm and then so actually addressing Morph, making Morph asexual, androgynous, and they refer to him as then in episode 10, which I don't know if they've done it before, but I noticed it when they're They're like blah blah blah, morph. Look what they've done to them. And I was like, oh well, we're using appropriate pronouns and stuff. That's amazing. And also building in the idea that Morph is in love with Wolverine was quite forward thinking as well. Like just really progressive. It was cool. Just a really cool show. I really liked. I don't know if they did it that much in the 90s, but Morph using Avengers. Like there's a couple of moments where he becomes an Avenger rather than in the old series he would just morph into another X-Men or morph into like a human being, but he morphs into Avengers as part of this series, and that was good fun.
What the 90s ones were made, they wouldn't have had access to those characters because they had been stole to somebody else, so they wouldn't be able to be an Avenger character, whereas now Disney can do whatever the hell they like. So
yes, and they have that as well. So like they address like the question when you watch the MCU movies and you're like, where the fuck are the Avengers? When there's this horrible crisis and Captain America has to deal with it on his own, or that they sort of dealt with that in X-Men 97, and that there was this crazy crisis, and then it flashed to what was Daredevil doing at that moment, and what's Doctor Strange up to and stuff. And I thought that was like, that's cool. I like that. That's because that always total annoyed me as a kid. And they sort of they lampshade it a wee bit. And Ant-Man was like,
when Fantastic Four first arrived and they're fighting Galactus, and you got to think to yourself, where is Thor? Where was things when New York has been absolutely pumped? Because everything in the Marvel comic, it's not like in DC they gave them all their own cities so that they didn't have to cross over. Everything in Marvel took place in New York, basically. There's something.
They lampshade it in Ant-Man. There's a really amazing, really funny moment in Ant-Man where like they tell him about the big crisis that they're facing. And Scott, and Scott's like, okay, I think the first thing we need to do is call the Avengers. It's like totally lampshades it. I was like, oh, probably like that's what you would think, couldn't it? If you're like,
they did the scene in one of the Deadpool movies as well, where they talked about why they didn't have certain characters in. It's because they were only, they couldn't pay to have them all. So it's like, that's why this fucking big house is so empty. We're not allowed to. We're not allowed to show them. I think they opened a door and everybody was there.
They shut the door while he's not looking, don't they? So they can't. It's Nicholas there, isn't he?
They'll just look up for they're having their meeting. Have you seen there's somebody's recreated the X-Men 97 mansion, and you can
I think I saw it on Airbnb or
on Airbnb. You can book it and go and live in it, and it's done out exactly like the cartoon, and and just two-tone colours, everything like that. Everything looks like it's made of plasticine. It's bizarre. So,
I think it'll be like the Willy Wonka thing. You'll get there and it's in a warehouse, and it's like there's a wheelchair and a guy in a bald cap, and that's it. And it's just like
see, the mistake with that Willy Wonka thing is because they did it somewhere nice. see if they've done that next. See if they'd done that next to Ibrox, that would have been the best fucking day those kids had ever had.
Are you being ironic? Because I've been to that building and it is effectively what you've described. It's not in a nice area. It's not a nice area. And it's directly across the water from Ibrox. It's like I was just
having a wee joke at the expense of those less fortunate than us.
Sorry.
I was laughing actually back in when that whole thing was kicking off. Some of the comments on some of the posts were just the comments made it. It was just amazing.
Yeah,
and there was some pictures. Some people's kids, and the mum went, my kids had a great time. They're easily amused. I was like, really? The kids had a great time? Okay, fair enough. Well, fair enough. They had their day made.
I had a friend.
They got a refund.
I had a friend that went. She said. So I had a friend that went. She took her kids, and in fairness, got like half price tickets on something like Voucher or a Groupon. I went along, and I think they got a partial refund in the end as well. And she said, "No, it was like we got there, and it was shit." And she was like, her children were really bemused. Like you read a lot, and I think that was partly why it was funny. It was like you're reading in the newspaper about kids being absolutely devastated, and it ruined like everything. Ruined and. Whereas, like, think if you could if you're prepared to take the hit and recognize for what it was, and like, is there not somebody that's done it in LA? Somebody's recreated the experience as it was in Glasgow, in LA, and it's supposed to be like this.
I don't know. I think they're making.
I read it. It's like that. It's supposed to be. It's just, you know, it's the whole thing. So you're getting the AI adverts, and it's supposed to be amazing. You get there, and it's really dystopian and horrible and concrete. But that's what they're going for.
Banksy did an
the Willy Wonka experience,
like that, wasn't it? It was a, you know, it was something like that, if I remember right. But I know it reminded me of it was years and years ago. But I know you're a fan of Mitchell and Webb, and one of their sketches they did one time was Flamingo Land, where the guy had the worst. I think Jeff's frozen up. The guy had like the worst holiday place in the world, Flamingo Land. Do you remember that one, Jeff? Jeff's definitely frozen.
I'm here. I can hear you. I don't remember that one though. Actually,
I would show up and there was basically cardboard cutouts of flamingos in a forest. They paid £50 to get in or something like that. Have a look at again YouTube Mitchell and Webb Flamingo Land. It was.
Oh.
So.
That's
I'm not saying Magneto was right. I'm not sure if she's talking about something which happened in '97 or just in general. So
just in general. And just in general, we talked about this at length last night. Actually, as a character, he's right. That's always, and I think that's always been like I was saying last night. That's always been the appeal of Magneto. It's he is right. He has formed, and it happens in '97 in particular. I find where they lean into the idea that he has formed an accurate assumption of humanity and what they're capable of and what they're prepared to do. He's not wrong. So I don't know, and I think you can play around with the idea that was he right or was he just not wrong, and that's kind of what we were talking about last night. But also the idea that
we've spoken about
like he has this assumption about humanity that he was correct about. You know what I mean? Like he was completely accurate in his understanding.
We've spoken about this before and about different characters. I look at things like Thanos, or like
Thanos,
forgetting the character, but Samuel L. Jackson's character in the first Kingsman movie, who's trying to kill off 90% of humanity. And more as you get older and you see what humanity actually is and is capable of, you think to yourself, they're right. We're destroying the planet. Maybe we should get rid of 50% of us, and there will be more for everybody. And I'm not sure about Magneto. Magneto's not a villain. He's a villain to humanity, but he's a hero to his people. So, from the point of view of the mutants, he's the good guy.
Well, the whole 97, the last two episodes were like part 1, part 2, and part 3. And they were called Tolerance is Extinction, and it was just playing around with that idea that, you know, if you do what Professor X is always telling us to do and be tolerant, you're just if mutants are tolerant to the plight of, or if mutants are tolerant to the behavior of humans, they will eventually die out because humans won't tolerate them back. So, you know, and it's like, and that's kind of where Magneto's coming from. Is like, it's that idea, you know, if we put up with his shit, we will just die. And then there's moments where there's a horrible thing that happens in episode 5, and he talks about that at length throughout the rest of the season, going like, you know, they'll just keep doing this if we let them, and it's that whole, it's horrible. And then, but then that then fuels the argument for the people that are afraid of mutants, you know, and it's that cyclical, like, we hate you because of the way you treat us, but we treat you like that because you do these things, and you know, it just creates this horrible cycle where, you know. So it was good. It was thoroughly enjoyable. Did anyone watch Doctor Who this week?
Yes.
I was really excited. Really excited.
Yeah.
About Doctor Who.
I heard the musical number, and I was like, I'm not sure.
There's a couple of musical numbers. There's been what, 3 musical numbers in 3 episodes now, or 2 episodes, 3 episodes and 2 musical numbers.
Somebody
I don't like musicals.
Online refer to it as it's the Gleeification of Doctor Who.
The Disneyfication.
I'm not convinced. I might give this generation a miss. I'm not sure it's for me.
They're getting that Disney money now, though, isn't it? So. because
Well, I said they've had to change it for Europe for American audiences. It used to be a case of, it was done for the British audience, and certain people in America would watch it, but now they want to appeal to a wider variety of people who get Disney Plus. So they're making it more like Disney, and I'm just not sure that
it's basically it's season 1 now. They've said it's Doctor Who season 1. That's what they're calling it. Yeah. And they do spend the first 10 minutes of the first episode of Space Babies recapping Doctor Who. Basically, it's kind of like the first time you see Eccleston meet Rose. It's pretty much a duplicate of that. It's weird.
It was quite lazy. I thought it was really lazily done.
It was very weird. It was like, right, okay. He's just like, hey, I'm the Doctor, blah 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 blah, and she's like, oh, what this? And he goes, blah, blah, blah. And it's just, it's very, very oddly done. Yeah. I think maybe it should be being spoon fed out throughout the episode. Instead of just being chucked in the first 10 minutes, spoon feed it out. Yeah. But then apparently she's only going to be in one season anyway. So, and there's only 8 episodes.
It was very, the whole thing's supposed to be that you show don't tell. But it was very, it was very not that. It was him standing at the TARDIS console pressing buttons, going, "I am a Time Lord. I come from the planet Gallifrey. I do this. I do that. I do this. I do that." And it was like, oh my god, like why you? Come on, Russell, I've told everybody that you're the best writer on television.
We talked about this before. It's a necessary exposition. It's exactly what John said. She said, "Show, don't tell." Like if you show somebody over the course of 2 or 3 episodes what's happened, rather than telling you in a 10-minute data dump.
Yeah. I think it was just basically, get it over and done with. Right, okay, let's go on with the adventure. For the new audiences. But obviously, us old audiences came in. What is this? And then it went. Yeah. It's very. I don't know. It's very audience friendly so far. The first 2 episodes. It's a bit weird. I'll stick with it. That's a bit weird.
Yeah, I'm not giving up yet, but I was just finding it. I found particularly, I don't know, the general consensus is that episode 2 is better than episode 1. I don't think I understood. Episode 1 was called Space Babies, and it was playing around. So there was some really gnarly special effects actually that I was a bit like, oh, I don't like that. That's really that doesn't look very nice. And then I think Russell T Davies writes like that, and he goes for big, bold ideas that don't necessarily stand up to the scrutiny if you look at them too closely. And I even found that in the second episode where the baddie, who was brilliant, was using music. Basically, they removed music from existence, and as a result, the world became a nuclear wasteland. And then that was the conversation they were having. Is if you remove music from the world, what would happen? And that was the conversation, and I'm all on board with that. But there was just technical effects, whenever they were trying to do capture somebody, they would throw their hand out and musical notes would appear and on the scale and would wrap around things and
So some of it was
I found that quite annoying.
Well done. It was clever, but I don't know.
I found the musical note thing quite weird because actually my understanding about musical notes is that they're my Wi-Fi is all over the place, and I think I'm missing the start of your sentences now, guys. I'm going to jump out for 2 seconds and see if that clears up.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it's been sold to me. I think the ideas that they're talking about seem to have, they've been done better. If you take away what would happen if we took away music or something like that, immediately I'll think about, there was an episode of Buffy called Hush, where nobody could speak, which was, one of the sort of best hours of TV, ever. And there was it was all done. A lot of it was done with music. There was once more with feeling. Again, a Buffy episode where everybody spoken as a musical or something like that, and again. Genius. It's not what I want for Doctor Who. So, but again, I think more and more I become an old guy who just wants things to be the same as they were, the 80s sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's good that they're trying something different. They're shaking it up a little bit. But yeah, it's not for everyone. Like I say, I'll stick with it. There might be. I stuck with it all throughout the Judy Whittaker years, which weren't the best. There were some good ideas in there, but for the most part, it was just a bit weird and bland. It was a bit odd. I'll stick with it.
I'm hopeful it gets better. Episode 3 is called Boom, and it was written by Stephen Moffat. So I'm hoping that'll be quite good.
As you all know, I was a massive fan. I think the best of all the new Doctors was Matt Smith. And I think Stephen Moffat was in charge for a good portion of his run. Wasn't he?
He was in charge for all
of
it.
Him and mostly Capaldi's era as well, actually.
Yeah.
So
I thought the Matt Smith era was absolutely spot on everything that Doctor Who should be. I was a fan of Peter Capaldi, which is a shame because I'm a massive fan of Peter Capaldi. And primarily in the thick of it, but just about everything else as well. But I should not give Stephen Moffat's episode a go before I try anything else. We'll really understand what's happening. Is there a recap at the beginning of the second episode to tell you what's happened last time on Doctor Who?
Probably.
I just thought it was a disservice to Chewie Gatwa as well. I don't know if John mentioned that when I was trying to sort my Wi-Fi, but he's brilliant. Like, he's really good.
Very good, yes. He's very good.
Really liking him as a Doctor.
Yeah.
So,
seems to be doing a lot of skipping around though. Every time you see him, he's like skipping or dancing or something. It's like he's always moving. Not a bad thing, Maybe that's.
TARDIS. There's no direct stairwells and stuff in the new TARDIS. Like, if you want to go from like that side to that side of the TARDIS, you have to run around like a loop and then round the court back at it's like the TARDIS is all these weird sort of interlocking stairwells and that now, rather than not stairwells, like ramps, aren't they? They're like just like which I quite like. Aesthetically, it looks really smart, but like you say, it does require him to have to run and skip quite a lot just to get from one section of the set to another.
Yeah.
When they first introduced that TARDIS, that was the first thing that David Tennant did.
He ran around it. Yeah.
I'm kind of a wee bit wary as well about what they're going to do with David Tennant. I didn't think, because he's out there somewhere as a Doctor.
No, that's it. Apparently, he's retired. That's it.
He's not coming back. What was the whole point of them giving him his own TARDIS and stuff like that? Everyone thought there's going to be.
They've done that already. That's it. I read somewhere that was kind of addressing the plot hole of not plot hole, but there's the Matt Smith 50th anniversary episode that Matt Smith's in, where Tom Baker shows up at the end as the great museum curator.
Yeah.
And then you're like, how can there be an old Tom Baker in this museum? And like suggesting that he's bi-generated in the past or he will in the future and that sort of stuff. So I quite like
revisit old faces and stuff like that.
Yeah,
because Tom Baker was great, and obviously I love her singing and dancing and thinking about. You can't forget Patrick Troughton used to cat about with some panpipes. The music's been done.
I wanted to do I've seen because they've talked about it. No, it's not Troughton, but heard that they want to bring back John Pertwee's Doctor for an episode. The same way they did it with Douglas Bradley. Bradley?
Playing William Hartnell.
I've seen stills of him. I've seen stills of Sean Pertwee, and he looks like his dad.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, that would be really smart actually if you had Sean Pertwee playing his dad's Doctor would be really awesome.
It used to be a regular thing when we were growing up. When the three Doctors in 1977 or something like that, they first did this thing, the three Doctors, where they had them all in a special. And then in sort of early 80s, when Peter Davison first became the Doctor, they did the 5 Doctors. And then they should just keep on going like that. They should do now the 17 Doctors.
Well, that's the anniversary episode thing, isn't it? Because the 3 Doctors was the 10th anniversary episode. And the 5 Doctors, was the
25th or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, it's a horrible episode though. Like if you actually watch the 5 Doctors, it's like the 4.5 Doctors because all Tom Baker's
Tom Baker was not there. I think all you see is one scene of him going into the TARDIS from behind, and you see his jacket, and then for the rest of it, he's trapped somewhere.
It's clipped from the unscreened Like that, he's in a couple of clips when he's on a canal boat, and it's from it's from the Douglas Adams story that they never screened, and they've just
Shadow.
Shadow, yeah. So, and then they tried to use trickery to make it look like he's
they cartoonised that on YouTube or something like that. You can go and watch that episode. It's done as a cartoon. They never screened it. You can see there's actually loads of ideas in that he subsequently used in Dirk Gently. You know, Douglas Adams also wrote the Dirk Gently books and Hitchhiker. But yeah, there's a lot of ideas in that episode that he subsequently used in the first 2 Dirk Gently novels. So.
Tom Baker wrote a Doctor Who novel. Have you read it? Called Scratch Man. Really good.
Right?
Really good. He wrote it with a guy that played one of his companions, Harry, I think it was. He was kind of like a soldier.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. It was like the army medic.
Yeah. But he basically was writing it during his downtime on the set, and they finally revisited it. And they say it's Tom Baker that wrote it, but it's probably a ghostwriter with Tom Baker's name in it. But it's a really good book. It's everything you'd want from a Tom Baker era Doctor Who. Yeah. Really good. I would, if you're a fan of Doctor Who, Scratch Man, check it out. It's really good.
I love Tom Baker. I'm of that era that Tom Baker was kind of the Doctor. For me when I was first starting to watch it. I love Peter Davison as well, because he was the first attempt at a kind of young trendy Doctor. 25 years before Matt Smith came along, he was like, let's have a young trendy one. And then after him, they decided, no, let's just go with fucking annoying. I can only assume because the 6th Doctor.
I feel bad for Colin Baker. Yeah, I think Colin Baker was the first. Yeah, Colin Baker. I think he's the first. He's the first victim of Doctor Who fatigue / bad writing. He's like, I think, in the same way that Jodie Whittaker probably is this generation's version of that, where they just, by
they made no attempts to make Colin Baker likeable. Like they just made the Doctor smug and arrogant, and that was never and has never been the Doctor. Even Christopher Eccleston, who's pretty smug and arrogant, I think, in a lot, still came across as likeable and funny and things like that. So
talking about Christopher Eccleston, I caught on the radio when me and Sonny went out on Saturday and drove to just take out Sonny on drives and we go play pinball and stuff. But somebody, because you guys wiggle your wire, somebody's echoing.
Sorry,
that's all right. There we go. That's it. Me and Sonny were driving, and I actually had to turn it off and then revisit it. I had a BBC Radio 4 playing in my car when I was driving with Sonny in the car, and there was a Christopher Eccleston starring radio drama of The Man That Fell to Earth on the radio, and this is like 2:00 on like a Sunday afternoon. So I'm like, just got and I sometimes quite like, if I've not got a podcast lined up, I just like talkie radio, so I like to put Talk Sport on or BBC if there's a Scottish football game on. But we were driving and I was flicking through the channels and put Radio 4 on, and it was this audio drama of The Man That Fell to Earth. And I had to turn it off, as I say, because it was like 2 in the afternoon. I thought, oh, this will be fine to listen to in the car. It's fucking bleak. Like just all these like huge monologues about nuclear holocaust and stuff like that. And I'm just like, well, this is really heavy stuff to be playing on the radio. I'm not saying like, obviously, it's not like our days when we were younger and that you could just watch. We just listen to the radio. Like I don't think anyone really listens to FM radio anymore. But it was pretty mind blowing. I totally recommend it. It's on it's a hard 57 minutes, but it's on BBC Sounds just now for the next month, and it's just The Man That Fell to Earth. Christopher Eccleston's in it. An alien comes into Earth.
Yeah, it's all struck me that it's a really strange thing. The guy who wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth is a guy called Walter Tevis, and he's known for 3 things. He wrote The Hustler, which became the movie about pool with Paul Newman. Aye. So he wrote that, and then he wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth, and he also wrote Queen's Gambit, which was recently on Netflix. The chess drama with Anya Taylor-Joy. But it's just everything completely different. So, yeah, very strange.
Yeah, it's totally like what a. It's a bit like it's just a really mad mix of there's movie directors like that, and if you like just take a snapshot of what they've done, and you're just like, how are those your things? It's like Steven Spielberg. He's like, Steven Spielberg's like I think a good example is like I'm going to try. I've done dinosaurs, I've done dinosaurs, I've done sharks, I've done aliens. I'm now going to do the racial prejudice that existed in South Carolina in the 1950s, and then it's like, and then he'll do it again. It's like, oh, I'm going to do another dinosaur one now. Oh, I'm going to do a fast-paced, quirky heist drama with Tom Hanks and Leonardo DiCaprio. It'll be quite funny and quirky, and it'll be done in my style. I'm now going to do the Holocaust, and you're just like, what the fuck are you
That's what
doing?
the Holocaust or something. Just completely changed it up all the time. Yeah.
Totally. Right. Anywho, yeah. So yeah, I heard that, and as I say, it's quite hard hitting 50. It's radio drama, so there's a lot of monologuing. There's like, obviously you can't. It's after all that stuff about us saying like show don't tell, and then when you listen to a radio drama, it's very tell. But as long as you have the right, as long as you have the right language and the right turn of phrase and stuff. But yeah, I would totally recommend that. Christopher Eccleston's in it. A bunch of other folk are in it. But an alien that comes into Earth with like he's trying to save his planet from nuclear. He's trying to save his race from nuclear devastation, and then find an alternative planet. He comes to Earth and realizes that we're very quickly on our own path towards nuclear devastation. So he's like, I want to save my people, but also this other planet. And then we're not very nice to him when we find out he's an alien. So yeah,
I've seen both versions of the film as well. Yeah, I saw the 60s version and I saw the Keanu Reeves version a few years back. Yeah,
Keanu Reeves version. I don't remember the Keanu Reeves version.
Keanu Reeves and Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, that's the day the Earth stood still.
The day the Earth stood still.
Oh, what am I thinking of, sir? What are you saying?
The man that fell to Earth.
David Bowie.
Sorry, David Bowie. My apologies. I've heard the wrong, misheard.
It's the same story though. They're both based on novels written during like the fear of
Cold War.
Atom,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think it's a relatively easy mistake to make those two actually, and they've got very weird.
I just heard the premise and thought, oh, that's the day the Earth is. But yeah, okay.
Other cracking movie though, really good movie. The 50s one's amazing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, guys. Will we call it a night? I've not really anything else to.
I'll going to have to find something to read. My wife's in. It's a very important day in TV. I don't know if your wives are on the same thing as mine, but it's Bridgerton Day, so I didn't.
Season 3 started today, didn't it?
Yeah, I didn't get the next TV for the next couple of nights at least. While she binges of Bridgerton. But I'll find something to watch. But yeah, that's great. So back next week, hopefully.
I'll be tuning into Taskmaster. Netflix just added 7 new seasons, so that's me for the next week.
Is it the British one? Is it just the stuff?
It's the British one, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Because I'd never watched it before, so they only had 6 seasons on, and they dropped another. It's up to season 13 now. So lots of goodies for me to watch.
I'm louder milking it up. That's great. On the second season of Louder Milk this week, and
so that I can understand what's happening with it.
Yeah,
hopefully.
Right, guys, have a lovely weekend, and I'll catch you all soon. And everyone else have a lovely day as well.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.